Welcome back to GMP Scenario, presented by PharmaContentLabs.com.
All right, let's talk about something that's absolutely critical in any quality assurance investigation: building a bulletproof timeline. This is one of those skills that can seriously make or break your whole case. If you get this wrong, your entire root cause analysis, well, it can just fall apart. And that leaves you in a really tough spot, especially during an inspection. So let's dig in and figure out how to get this right every single time.
Okay, picture this. I'm sure you've been here before. A new deviation report lands on your desk. You start reading it and, something just feels off. It's just this giant wall of text describing some event that went on for hours, had a bunch of different people involved, and happened in multiple rooms. So you're reading this whole story, but you're left wondering, what's actually wrong with this picture?
Well, for starters, there's no clear sequence of events. Everything is just buried in these long paragraphs. There's no logical flow. You have no idea what happened first, what happened next. It's just a total jumble of information.
Next up, and this one is just as critical, no timestamps. 0. You know things happened, sure, but you have absolutely no idea when they happened. Think about it. Was there a 10-minute gap between two key steps, or was it 2 hours? Without those timestamps, you're completely in the dark. It's impossible to know.
And finally, the nail in the coffin: no evidence links. The report is making all these claims, but there is nothing, and I mean nothing, to back them up. No links to logbooks, no references to batch records, no mention of system alarms. It's all just one big assertion with zero proof.
So what we're looking at here is what I call a broken narrative. It's basically someone trying to tell a story about what went wrong. But the problem is it completely fails as a real technical document because it's missing that crucial structure and proof. And really, that gets to the heart of the problem, doesn't it? The whole story feels generic because, well, it is. It kind of mentions the what, that it took hours, involved different rooms and people, but it gives you absolutely no specific, verifiable details. A story that vague, it's pretty much useless when you're trying to find a true root cause. In a regulated world like GMP, this isn't just a sloppy report. It's actually a formal investigation gap. And what that means is you've failed to meet the most basic standard of a proper investigation. Because think about it, if you can't even establish the chronology, the what happened when, there is no way you can correctly identify the real root cause.
Okay, so how do we fix this? How do we go from this broken story to a really solid investigation? It all starts with a shift in mindset, a core principle really. Our job isn't to tell a story, it's to prove what happened. And that brings us to the next absolutely crucial point. This is it. Seriously, this is the whole game right here. If you don't have a timeline, you cannot prove causality, period. If event A happens at 10:05 and event B happens at 10:07, you can at least start to ask, hey, did A cause B? But without that timeline, you're just guessing. You might have two things that happened around the same time, but you can never, ever prove one caused the other. So this is the fundamental choice every single investigator has to make on every single case. Are you going to write a vague, unprovable story, or are you going to build a specific, timestamped timeline that's backed up by hard evidence? One is just a narrative. The other, that's proof.
So why is this such a big deal? Why does it matter so much? Because a bad timeline doesn't just make things confusing, it actively hides the truth. It buries the key triggers that started the whole thing. It glosses over the critical moments where someone intervened, and it completely misses those minute-by-minute details that, let's be honest, an inspector is going to demand, especially when it's a major deviation.
All right, so we've spent a lot of time diagnosing the problem. Now for the good part. How do we actually fix it? Let's get practical here and walk through the exact steps you need to reconstruct a timeline that's truly bulletproof, one that'll stand up to any scrutiny.
It's a pretty straightforward 4-step framework. First, you have to anchor your investigation. You start from the last known good state, the last point in time when everything was working perfectly. From there, step 2, you map out every single event that happened after that, each with a precise timestamp. Then, step 3, and this is absolutely critical, you attach hard evidence to every single one of those points. It's only after you've done all that, when you have a proven chain of events, that you can move to step 4, accurately pinpointing the failure and linking your corrective and preventative actions, your CAPA.
And just to be super clear, when I say evidence, I'm not talking about someone's memory. I'm talking about concrete, objective data, things like system logs, equipment alarms, printouts from the process itself, or even electronic access records that tell you exactly who was in what room and when. This is the kind of data that's just undeniable. You can't argue with it.
All right, this brings us to our final section, and it really just hammers home the most important takeaway of all. As an investigator, your job is not to be a storyteller. It's to be a collector and a presenter of evidence. That's it. You know, the single biggest mistake I see investigators make is they just default to writing a story. They fall back on writing prose to try and explain what happened. But you have to remember, inspectors are literally trained to spot this. They will push right past your beautiful story and ask, okay, show me the timeline, show me the evidence.
So what does a report that can actually stand up to that pressure look like? Well, it's got to have these key parts. You need a chronology table. That's what proves the sequence. You need evidence references that link every event to hard proof. You need to show your decision points, the rationale for why people did what they did. And finally, an impact assessment that clearly defines the scope of the problem. When you put all that together, it's not just a report anymore. It's an airtight case.
When it all comes down to it, it really boils down to this one powerful idea. A well-documented chronology proves you are in control. Think about it. It doesn't just explain a single failure. It demonstrates that you have such a deep understanding of your processes that you can reconstruct exactly what happened, minute by minute. That's control. So, I'm going to leave you with a question. The next time you open up an investigation file, I want you to ask yourself this. Am I just telling a story about what happened here? Or am I building an evidence-based timeline that actually proves we're in control? Because that difference, well, it's everything.
Thank you for watching. If this helped, like and subscribe. More GMP scenarios coming.